The last thing Arthur ever said to me wasn't "I love you." It was a scream, a raw animal howl full of hatred as the police dragged him off my porch. He smelled like expensive sandalwood and old money. He wore cashmere and promised me a villa in Tuscany. I was in love. I was ready to sell my house and disappear with him to the other side of the world. But 3 days before our flight, tucked inside the lining of his perfect jacket, I didn't find plane tickets. I found my death sentence, a life insurance policy, $500,000 in my name. The payout date, the day we were supposed to arrive in Italy. He thought I was just a naive librarian. He forgot one small detail. I've spent my entire life learning how to read between the lines. Was a librarian. For 40 years, I spent my life organizing chaos into neat alphabetical rows. I categorized the world: fiction, nonfiction, biography, mystery. I thought I knew the difference between a true story and a fabrication. I thought I could spot a misfiled book from a mile away. But Arthur didn't just want to check out a book. He wanted to burn down the library. 6 months ago, my life was a study in silence. I wasn't desperate. Please understand that. The world likes to paint women my age as wilting flowers begging for water. I wasn't. I was solitary. I was self-sufficient. I owned my home, a Victorian sturdy enough to outlast me. I had my pension. I had my garden. But loneliness is a heavy coat. You wear it for so long, you forget how much it weighs until someone offers to help you take it off. It started on a Tuesday at the Broken Spine, that little independent bookstore downtown. I was in the architecture section looking for a coffee table book for my nephew when a hand reached past me. "Palladio," a voice said. "Excellent choice, though if you want to understand the soul of a building, you should look at the foundation, not the facade." He was silver-haired, immaculate in a charcoal wool coat and a cashmere scarf. His voice was a baritone rumble, like a cello played in an empty hall. We talked for 20 minutes right there between the shelves. He told me he was a retired architect. He spoke of skylines he'd altered, museums he drafted in Munich, city halls in Chicago. He told me he spent his life building monuments for other people, but never a home for himself. He looked at me with an intensity that made me feel like I was the only interesting thing in the room. He didn't look at my waistline or my wrinkles. He looked at my mind. When he invited me for coffee, I didn't hesitate. Why would I? He was charming, articulate, and safe. Or so I thought. The next 6 weeks were a blur, a carefully curated high-definition blur. Arthur didn't just date me, he curated an experience. He drove a vintage Mercedes, a 1970s SL convertible with leather seats cracked just enough to imply history, not neglect. He took me to the kind of restaurants where the menus don't have prices. I remember one night specifically at Les Jardins. The bill must have been $300. He didn't even look at it. He tossed a platinum Amex onto the tray and tipped the waiter 30%. "Generosity, Eleanor, is the only currency that matters at our age," he said. "Why hoard it? We can't take it with us." He was playing the long game, and I was the pawn. He made himself vulnerable first, so I would follow suit. He told me about his investments in green energy, and it felt natural for me to mention my own humble situation, my nest egg, the $300,000 I'd saved over 40 years of shelving books and skipping vacations. He didn't get greedy when I mentioned the money. He got protective. He touched my hand across the table, his eyes wet with emotion. "You've worked too hard, Elle," he whispered. "You shouldn't be worrying about heating bills. You should be worrying about which wine pairs best with the Tuscan sunset." He used that phrase often, at our age. It was a weapon. We don't have time to waste at our age, Eleanor. He took my fear of dying alone and weaponized it, making impatience feel like romance. It was 6 weeks to the day when he made his move. He came over for dinner wearing a tuxedo. He said he'd just come from a gala but left early because the conversation was cold. He placed a large tube on my dining table. He looked nervous. It was the only time I ever saw his hands shake. I've designed a lot of things, Eleanor, skyscrapers, bridges, but I've never designed a future until now. He unrolled the paper. They were blueprints, professional, detailed, blue-inked blueprints. It was a villa, Villa Eleanor, scrawled in the corner in architectural script. It sat on a hill in Tuscany overlooking a vineyard. It had a library with a rolling ladder and a garden for my roses. I've put the down payment on the land, he said. It's an old farmhouse, needs work, but I can fix it. I can build this for us. He paused, locking eyes with me. I'm selling my stocks, Eleanor. I'm liquidating the portfolio. Sell the house, Elle. Sell this place. It's too big for you. It's full of ghosts. Let's pool our resources. Let's go to Italy. Let's live the life you actually deserve. The room was so quiet I could hear the wax dripping from the candles. Sell my house? My sanctuary? My security? My librarian's brain tried to catalog this as too good to be true, but my heart was already walking through that Tuscan garden. He stood there, the architect of my dreams, offering me the keys to a kingdom. I didn't see the demolition crew standing behind him. I didn't see the dynamite. I looked at the blueprints, and I smiled. A con artist doesn't just steal your money, they steal your reality. They isolate you. They build a wall around you, brick by brick, until the only window you have left looks directly at them. The first brick was laid by my own daughter. Jessica has always been the skeptic. She's a lawyer. She doesn't believe in fairy tales. She believes in discovery motions. We met for dinner at a bistro, and she brought her cross-examination to the table. So, Arthur, which firm did you say you were with in Chicago? Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill? Or was it Gensler? I was independent mostly, a consultant for the city. I preferred the freedom of the contract to the shackles of the corporate ladder. Interesting, Jessica said. And this villa in Tuscany? Have you had a structural engineer look at it? Italian property law is a nightmare. Who is your conveyancer? I watched Arthur's face. I expected anger, but he shrank. He looked down at his plate, his shoulders slumping just enough to look like a wounded animal. I see, he said, looking at me. Your daughter thinks I'm after something. I suppose it's hard to believe a man could just want to be happy. He didn't fight back. He played the victim, and it worked perfectly. I felt a surge of protective anger, not at him, but at Jessica. How dare she ruin this? I reached out and took his hand. I chose him, and in doing so, I took the first step away from the only person who could have saved me. Unbelievable. Fraud protection again, he said. I moved a large sum to the escrow account for Italy this morning. They must have frozen the card. Elle, darling, do you have your card? It's just $50. I'll wire it back to you the second we get home. It was $50, a drop in the ocean compared to the millions he claimed to have. I handed him my card, but as I watched him pump the gas, something cold settled in my stomach. The architect, the man who tipped waiters 30%, couldn't buy a tank of unleaded. It was the first time the illusion flickered. The flickering became a strobe light a few nights later. It was 2 a.m. Arthur was staying over. I woke up to an empty bed and heard whispering coming from the bathroom. I crept to the door. No, she hasn't signed the deed yet, I heard him say. She's close. I just need a few more days. Stop pressuring me. I have it under control. My heart stopped. She hasn't signed the deed yet? He was talking about me. I pushed the door open. Arthur spun around, clutching his phone. His face was hard, calculating, but the moment he saw me, the mask slid back into place. Who are you talking to, Arthur? I asked. He sighed, putting the phone down, looking exhausted. The travel agent, Elle, in Italy. It's morning there. I was trying to coordinate your surprise birthday trip to Venice before we move. I wanted everything to be perfect. He looked hurt. Why? Who did you think I was talking to? Gaslighting isn't just lying, it's making you question your own sanity. In that moment, I felt guilty. I felt like a suspicious, ungrateful old woman. I apologized. I hugged him. I let him comfort me for catching him in a lie. 3 days later, he told me he had to go to New York to finalize the sale of his stocks. As his Mercedes pulled out of the driveway, the silence of the house rushed in, and with the silence came the librarian. I spent 40 years researching facts. Why had I never verified him? I went to my study, sat at my computer, and for the first time in months, I stopped being Eleanor the lover and became Eleanor the librarian. Step 1. The villa. He had sent me a digital file of the photo titled Our Future Home. I dragged the photo into a reverse image search. The little circle spun. Ping. Results found, 4,000. It wasn't a farmhouse for sale in Tuscany. It was a stock photo from a travel blog titled Top 10 Luxury Rentals in Wine Country. It wasn't real. It was a JPEG. My hands started to tremble. I felt sick, a physical nausea rising in my throat. But I couldn't stop. I had pulled the thread and the sweater was unraveling. Step 2. The car. I had written down his license plate number on a sticky note. I paid a fee for a background check. The result popped up in bold letters. Owner, Cinema Vehicles, Inc. Status, commercial rental/prop use only. It wasn't his car. He was renting it by the week. The vintage Mercedes, the symbol of old money, it was a costume. I needed something physical. I needed to hold the lie in my hands. I went to the hallway closet where he had left a spare navy blazer. I tore it off the hanger and plunged my hands into the pockets. Lint, a mint wrapper, and deep in the inside pocket, a crumpled piece of thermal paper. It wasn't a receipt from a 5-star hotel. It was from You Store It Self-Storage, dated yesterday, and underneath it, a slip from a fast cash payday loan center. I looked at the name on the slip. It didn't say Arthur Sterling. It said, Customer, Arthur Miller. The man I was about to sell my house for didn't exist. Arthur Sterling was a fiction, and I was the only one reading the book. I typed the name Arthur Miller into the county clerk's database. The screen refreshed, revealing not a portfolio of buildings, but a portfolio of destruction. 5 bankruptcies, 3 restraining orders from women in neighboring counties, 1 active warrant for parole violation in Ohio. He wasn't an architect, he was a demolition expert. He found women who had built quiet, sturdy lives, and he planted dynamite at their foundations. But the worst was yet to come. I went back to the stack of papers he had left on my dining table, the house sale documents I was supposed to sign. I put on my reading glasses and stopped looking at the signature lines. Hidden between a property tax affidavit and a transfer of deed was a document on thinner paper. Term life insurance, policy 88920, face value $500,000, primary beneficiary Arthur Sterling, effective date the day we were scheduled to arrive in Tuscany. The blood drained from my face. He didn't just want the proceeds from my house. That money runs out. A lifestyle like his requires a constant stream. He wasn't planning on retiring with me in a villa. He was planning on outliving me. I wasn't a fiancé. I was a payday. I heard his car pull up at 10 a.m. the next morning. I had 2 choices. I could run or I could finish the story. I took out my phone and texted Jessica, "Come over, bring the police. I have the proof. Don't call, just come." Then I put the kettle on. Arthur entered looking refreshed, glowing, carrying a bouquet of cheap supermarket flowers. "Eleanor, darling, the trip was a success. The investors are ready." He dropped the flowers on the table next to the stack of papers. "Did you sign them? Did you sign our future?" I have never been an actress, but that day I gave the performance of a lifetime. I poured him a cup of tea, smiling with cold eyes. "Almost, Arthur. I just had a few questions about the structural integrity." He laughed, taking the tea. "Oh, Elle, you worry too much. The structure is sound. I designed it myself." "I know you did. You designed everything so carefully, even the exits." Arthur paused, the cup freezing halfway to his mouth. The air in the room shifted instantly from warm to freezing. "What does that mean, Elle?" "It means, Arthur, or should I call you Mr. Miller, I was wondering why a retired architect needs a $500,000 insurance policy on a librarian." The mask didn't slide off, it shattered, his face contorted, the charming smile vanishing into a sneer of pure hatred. He stood up abruptly, knocking the tea over. "You stupid—" Sirens cut through the air, tires screeched on the gravel outside. Arthur lunged for the back door, but he was 70 years old and soft from a life of theft. The officers were waiting. Jessica had found the warrant from Ohio. "She's lying! She's crazy! I love her!" Arthur screamed as they shoved his head down to protect it from the door frame. I stood on the porch, clutching my cardigan. I didn't cry. I didn't look away. I watched the architect of lies get demolished. The aftermath wasn't pretty. I lost about $5,000 in dinners and small loans. My pride took a bigger hit than my wallet. But I kept my house. I kept my life. I turned my study into a war room, using my skills to find the other 5 women he had swindled. We built a case. He won't be seeing a Tuscan sunset anytime soon. He'll be seeing concrete walls for the next 10 years. Loneliness is a dangerous thing. It's a heavy coat. It makes you want to take it off so badly you'll let anyone help you with the buttons. Don't let them. If a fairy tale walks into your life wearing a vintage suit and smelling of sandalwood, asking you to sell your security for a dream, wake up, check the receipts, check the photos, trust your gut, because the only person who is going to save you is you.